Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Now, way back on episode 166, I spoke to Dave Marvit, Fujitsu's innovation strategist, and Mohi, Ahmed, the director of Open Innovation Gateway. Now, they were customers of Oblong technology, which is best described as like something out of the Minority Report movie, but in a good way. And there's a very good reason for that too, because Oblong CEO John Underkoffler was a science advisor to Steven Spielberg on that movie. Now, as it's the 15th anniversary of the Minority Report, I invited him on the show today, and I'm delighted to say he said yes. You've probably already seen Oblong's tech in films like The Minority Report and even a new CBS show called 48 Hours NCIS. But this isn't science fiction. This is really happening, and it's really out there and being used by businesses all over the world at the moment. And Oblong's Mezzanine technology is also winning awards right outside the entertainment industry. For example, Gartner has featured it in their Select the Right Technology for the Modern Meeting Rooms in their report there. But enough of me, I don't want to spoil things too much, so buckle up, hold on tight so we can beam your ears all the way to the States so we can speak with Oblong CEO John Underkoffler. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
My name is John Underkoffler. I'm honored and delighted to be on the show today. I'm the founder and CEO of a company called Oblong Industries. We are Los Angeles-based, but we have offices in 15 cities in the U.S. and in Europe as well. And our goal is nothing less than to change people's understanding of what computers are about, what they're for, and what they're capable of. And in particular, to introduce a kind of deep and rich collaboration layer as part of what you do throughout the waking day as you use a computer.
Now, one of the things that I've got to ask is, how are you aiming to reinvent the workplace collaboration with Oblong's Mezzanine 360-degree visual immersion technology? Regular listeners will know that I spoke to some people that were using this last year, but it's fantastic technology and incredibly exciting. So can you just expand on that a little bit?
Well, in a lot of ways, Mezzanine is a very simple idea. It's a new kind of computer. It's a computer with pixels spread out around the room. And then the new qualities are that it's a computer that multiple people can use at the same time, and that they can control from anywhere in the room using gestural control or control from a browser or a smartphone or a tablet, and that multiple people can inject content into it at the same time. So it's like a multi-user version of what we understand computers to be today. But it's such a big difference that it really is transformative. People's eyes go wide the first time they sit in one of these rooms. And then their businesses are transformed once they sit in these rooms and work every day.
It's so true what you say there, and I think you see people's eyes wide, and it opens up their mind to the possibility and the art of the possible, and what they can and how they can work differently. Now, I will put a video in the show notes just to help anyone listening visualise what you do. But anyone that has seen what you guys do will instantly think of the movie Minority Report, but in a good way. And it's a good reason for this that I mention it, because it's the 15th anniversary of the Minority Report. And I actually believe that you were the science advisor in that Steven Spielberg movie. Is that right?
I was. It's one of those things that's so unexpected and so weird that it can only happen in real life. But yes, it's true.
Wow. Can you tell me about that experience and how you got the gig?
Well, I'd been building collaborative systems and next-gen UI type systems at the MIT Media Lab in the late 80s through the 90s. But one day, the production designer for Minority Report, which had just gotten green-lit, a fantastic, brilliant guy named Alex McDowell, came by the laboratory, and he was looking for new technology that he could put in the film, because he had a very hard job. Spielberg had said to him, I don't want this to look like sci-fi, I want this to look like reality. It's just a reality that's set 50 years in the future, so everyone has to believe it. And when Alex saw the kind of next-gen UI work that I was doing, that we were doing at the lab, he said, I think this might solve the biggest design problem that we have, which is Steven wants to know what do computers look like in 50 years. And it kind of went from there.
So I'm curious, what's changed in your opinion in those last 15 years since the movie was released? I mean, how has Oblong equally progressed and evolved in that time?
Well, there's two big steps. One was to take the ideas that I'd been working on in an academic laboratory where they kind of worked. It was real operating code and systems you could play around with, but it was still a prototype. Take that and pull it into the movie. And that was an unbelievably valuable experience because it sort of highlighted the importance of clarity and simplification. In an academic environment, you can write a 50-page paper that explains your idea. In a movie like Minority Report, you have exactly 0 seconds to get the idea across. The scene opens, we see Tom Cruise doing this thing, the audience has to understand what he's doing. And that meant that the design of the system, the design of the gestural language, the visual language on the screens had to be so obvious and so legible that you just get it right away. And then there's another, and so that's a hugely valuable thing to do. Then there's another jump, which is to take that version of the vision and pull it into reality. And that's another really, really hard step, arguably a lot harder. So it's taken the decade or so between the movie and now to really perfect that process in a way and to take literally what people saw, what audiences saw on the screen in those scenes in Minority Report and make it commercially available so that anyone in any business context can use it and get an enormous amount of value from it.
And I love that corporate world to Hollywood thing that Oblong secured there. But I believe this is something that is also continuing. I mean, can you tell me about how Oblong technology is also being used in a new CBS show? I think it's called 48 Hours NCIS.
Yeah, that's right. And of course, here on this topic, there's always a little bit of risk for me because there's fundamentally no connection between Oblong and the entertainment world. I happen to have worked as the science advisor and technology designer on Minority Report, and I'm also the CEO of Oblong, and obviously the ideas flowed from one to another, but traditionally Oblong has had no business dealings with the entertainment world.
Yeah.
I expect that to change over time. But as you say, we were approached about a year ago with the possibility to use this technology for real this time to shoot the sort of bookend sequences in this new television show, 48 Hours NCIS. The experience was, I think, again, to use the term, was eye-opening for the producers and technical staff putting that show together. And they're on the record as saying that they probably couldn't have done it without Mezzanine, and they certainly saved days or weeks of production time by using Mezzanine simply as a kind of free-form, super fluid visual canvas where they could move information around, move visual content around, adjust it, juxtapose it, and do it all in real time. And I think it makes for a pretty spectacular, visual tone for that entire series.
It really does, because in the show you're using Mezzanine in a very immersive way, and it seems to put the viewer inside the control centre of NCIS. But what kind of feedback have you received from this? I mean, is it opening people's eyes to other opportunities of how they can also use this technology? Or in general, what kind of feedback have you been getting?
Well, I think it's doing all those things. We've gotten a number of mentions in trade publications who are saying, that they hadn't considered the possibility of using Mezzanine in this way as an actual production tool. But at a deeper level, I think it does more of what Minority Report did. They're basically saying the same thing, and it's the same thing that Oblong and Mezzanine say, which is that you need advanced tools, you need more visual tools, you need collaboration to solve the world's hardest problems. If you think what's happening in Minority Report, if you teleport your mind back to those scenes 15 years ago, here's an incredibly highly trained team of kind of forensic cops, pre-cops, I suppose, who have 6 minutes to solve this incredibly difficult problem, and if they don't get it right, someone's going to be murdered. And what those scenes are showing, and what I was designing, was the idea that it's the humans that are doing it. It's the human intelligence that's solving this, but it's assisted by this new visual and gestural technology. And the human efforts, the human expertise is kind of pulled together in a sort of hive mind by the UI. And the same thing is, I think, on display in 48 Hours NCIS. You're seeing more information than you could get on any individual laptop screen or desktop screen, all set up so that human brains can understand it. And at the end of the day, collaboration is about mutual understanding. It's about business empathy, if you will.
And you mentioned that mutual understanding now. I'm sure that the amount of people that are going to be watching this show, and I've already seen Minority Report, there's going to be light bulbs going off in their head, so I expect your phone line to be incredibly busy. But it's not all about the entertainment industry, though, because Mezzanine also featured in Gartner's list recently for select the right technology for meeting rooms in their research note. So can you tell me a little about what Gartner had to say about you guys? Because that, again, is incredible high recognition that you guys are doing the right thing, isn't it?
It is, and I think it boils down to a single line. In that report, Gartner says that Oblongs Mezzanine is the defining product for multi-screen, multi-stream collaboration rooms. And in that short sentence, there's a lot of important stuff going on. The recognition that it's multi-screen and multi-stream is the key definition. That's technically what's going on. And so, of course, what Mezzanine does is to take the one thing at a time version of computing that we've always had. One person at a time, one thing at a time, and parallelize it, make it lots of people at the same time and lots of streams, lots of information streams at the same time. And by calling us out as the defining product is certainly gratifying as well. But it does the most important thing, which is that it recognizes the category, that this is a new category, and it's a critical category. We're not going to get through the 21st century unless businesses and organizations get really, really good at collaboration. So, of course, it's an honor to be mentioned in any Gartner report, and it feels like the beginning of an era, which is great.
Now, like I said earlier on in the show, I will put a YouTube video up of illustrating what your technology can do there with Mezzanine. But I do notice you now have a wide range of products, right from the Mezzanine 200 series up to the 650 series. So just for anyone listening to help them understand what products are available, I mean, how does each of these models differ?
The 600 series is essentially where we started, and it's a large system. It's intended for teams of 5, 8, 12 people. And it deploys 3 large high-definition displays on the front, kind of side-by-side in a triptych format, and up to 3 on the sidewall in a configuration that we call digital corkboards. And then on another wall, you can have a whiteboard with a camera trained on it, so that becomes part of the process. And there's a VTC camera and codec that's built into the system or that the system wraps around, so you're connecting to other people in other mezzanine rooms with both faces and information. So that's where we started, and there are hundreds and hundreds of those deployed out in the field for lots of the Fortune 1000, Global 3000. But we've expanded the product line since then, as you suggest, into the Mezzanine 650, which is sort of the no-holds-barred version. We can put it on display walls. We can add arbitrary numbers of side corkboard displays. There's a really interesting company in Washington, D.C. called Strategic Insight that has what I think is the largest deployment of a 650 at the moment. I think they have 21 displays in a wraparound 360 environment for education and investigation. Then the 300 series is just the 3 screens in the front, and it's perfect for medium to large size teams that are working intensively and collaboratively on problem solving. And like all the mezzanine entries, it can connect to other mezzanines. So it's not just the 4 or 5 of us in this room. It's the team of 3 in Sao Paulo and the team of 7 in Berlin and another team of 4 in London, all working together, all seeing the same thing at the same time. And then the Mezzanine 200 is just 2 displays side by side. It's a familiar and kind of space-effective deployment for a lot of people, but it does the same thing that all the other mezzanines do, which is to give you, multi-point of control, multi-participant, and multi-stream information at your fingertips. And really, the difference isn't so much about budget or room size, although those things are important, obviously, but it's also to do with work style and workflow. Just as people go into different size rooms and different configurations of rooms to take a crack at different kinds of problems, we've recognized that your pixel space, your collaborative computation space, needs to scale accordingly.
So what kind of sizes are those screens?
We'll support anything from 55-inch screens up to, wow, here I'm going to get myself in trouble. We certainly have deployments at 90-inch screens and above, but we recommend 55 to 85-inch screens, and that's a lot of pixels and a lot of pixel real estate when you think about it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to what you mentioned a few moments ago there with 21 screens. That blows my mind. It's a lot more than one Microsoft Surface Hub in the corner of the room, isn't it? It's a different level.
It is, but the goal is also very distinct from what a Surface Hub is trying to achieve. And actually, the products are very complementary. You can plug in a Surface Hub to a Mezzanine. But with Mezzanine, sometimes I think of it like a brain projector. The idea is to get everyone's ideas out of their heads and onto the displays where, again, everyone can see all of that in the same way at the same time.
And I would imagine that would increase collaboration and productivity, and you don't just have one person in a meeting room shouting everybody else down if everyone is encouraged to get their ideas up on the wall.
Exactly. We've all died the death of 1,000 meetings or 1,000 PowerPoint presentations, and it's probably appropriate for a few kinds of meetings. But most of the time, people want to work together. They want to collaborate. They want to help each other. They want to fit idea A into idea B and augment it with idea C. And that can only happen when the technology that's supporting those kinds of meetings or work sessions thinks the same way and looks the same way and works the same way.
Absolutely. So I've got to ask, what's next for Oblong? I mean, is there anything else on the horizon that you can share with us? I expect that there's not too much that you can go into, but is there any teasers that you can give us?
We're working very hard on a broad set of compatibilities and integrations. What Mezzanine brings really to the table is the idea that all of the information, the documents, the data, the applications that originate on people's individual devices, their laptops and smartphones and tablets, no matter what location they're in, all flow into this big, beautiful, delicious pixel workspace. And we bring in video conferencing as one element of that, side by side with all of the work products and the applications. But we don't regard the VTC piece itself as our core business or core competency, which is why we're compatible with Cisco and Polycom and Lifesize and lots of others as well. But we're expanding that compatibility to include Skype for Business, and we'll keep going until basically any VTC, any video conferencing investment or decision that a company has already made is great, because we will interoperate with whatever that is. And we'll continue along those lines to integrate with calendaring. We actually are just rolling out a beta of Exchange integration that does that, and some document sharing as well. So that's not earth-shattering in the sense that it'll make Mezzanine look particularly different, but it will make it accessible to 100 or 1,000 times as many people and businesses. Then I think it's fair to say that over the horizon is where stuff gets even more interesting. And we really are on a mission and a road to ubiquity. I believe firmly, and Oblong believes firmly, that the idea of collaboration is not one that ought to be limited to certain kinds of meetings or certain moments or certain bits of the facility. Any device you have should instantly become this kind of brain teleporter, or brain merge machine, so that from one moment to the next, you might go from working alone on a document or an application or on a CAD system or something like that, to the next moment being connected together with someone else, see their face, but also see their work, see their applications. And that kind of ubiquity, where every pixel surface in the world speaks Mezzanine effectively, is where Oblong is going.
Well, it sounds like you've got an incredibly exciting future. It's been great to see how you guys have grown over the years as well, and evolved since the Minority Report. And I think a lot of the TV that we see now, whether it be sports coverage and things, I think a lot of that was kind of inspired by the Minority Report and the technology that was kind of, giving us a little glimpse into the future there, and people have built around that. So it's great to see. But before I let you go, can you remind the listeners where they can find more information about everything we've spoken about today, and maybe where they can find a few videos and that will help them visualize how cool this tech really is?
Yeah, absolutely. The answer is pretty easy. If you just go to oblong.com on your favorite web browser, everything is there, including the Gartner Report and some Forrester reports, and lots of videos that show what Mezzanine can do and how it applies to different business verticals, and a little bit of what's coming as well.
Excellent. Now, like we both hinted at a few moments ago, we've both been in those meetings where you have one person dominating the room. So anything that removes that and allows people to collaborate more and be more productive and more efficient can only be a great thing. So it's also great to see that you're not only shining on the big screen, but also transforming the workplace. And for that alone, I thank you for coming on and sharing your story today.
And I thank you as well for your time.
What I find fascinating about chatting to John there about Oblong and about their Mezzanine technology is how their real products were used by Hollywood studios to create a future vision in films like The Minority Report, even though they were actually doing it right there and then. And 15 years later, that vision is coming to meeting rooms and boardrooms all over the world. I mean, I can't remember the company that John referenced there, but to think of 21 giant screens where people are interacting and collaborating across, it's just fantastic. And once again, people are seeing it in TV shows and will also be discovering the art of the possible. They're going to see it on this CBS show, and that's going to set off light bulb moments where they think, I could use it for this, and bring up new uses for it. And I just find it fascinating and amazing to see how it inspires people's imagination and how everyone will use it differently. But the fact that it increases collaboration, productivity and efficiency, that has got to be the biggest value bomb for me. We've all been in those meeting rooms where one person rules the show, and that's not really reflective of this digital society that we now live in, where everyone's expected to play a part, and we celebrate each other's differences and play to each other's strengths rather than concentrating on weaknesses. So I think it's safe to predict that we're going to be seeing much more about Oblong and their Mezzanine products in the future. So a big thank you to John coming on today.
If you enjoyed today's show, why not leave a rating or review on whatever platform you listen to the Tech Blog Writer podcast? More reviews really help bring more listeners to the show, which makes it easier to get even better guests to share tech stories that offer value rather than hype.
Now, before I let you all go, I just wanted to read out a few reviews that we've had on iTunes at the moment, because if you guys take the time to leave a review about the show, the least I can do is read it out and give you a proper thank you. So in the States, we had jhost441. He says, Neil does an awesome job digging deeper into each specific topic he covers and finds wonderful industry leaders to interview. A big thank you for that one. Somehow he finds the time to crank out a few quality podcasts each week that are packed with great questions and informative details. A must listen on my weekly podcast rotation. So JOS441, a big thank you for taking the time to write those incredibly kind words, which is truly humbling. Please send in tweet me a picture over to Neil C. Hughes and let me see where you listen to the show. Tell me where in the States that you listen to the show. I've also got one more. Pritchett ST, he says, I look forward to listening to Neil's podcast. His segments are interesting and he always asks great questions that make for good interviews. A must listen if you're in the tech industry. Again, big thank you for you. And also remember to tweet me a little picture so I can see what you guys look like. And finally, I have one from BBar21. They say, Neil always has the best guests and topics in the industry, is a forward-thinking commentator and one of the best voices in technology today. Whew, my head's going to explode soon, isn't it? He's always interesting and each podcast is thoroughly enjoyable. I highly recommend him to both hardcore techies and people looking to learn more about the industry. I've got a bit shy, bashful and humble there. You've all said so much nice things. So a big thank you for taking the time to do that. And like I say, you can always tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, email me techblogwriter@outlook.com. This is your show as much as mine. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.